Hi, we're nearing the end of all of our webinars, and it makes sense that this one is dealing with the finish line and timing and results because that comes near the end of a race. So this is Leslie and Duncan with another webinar for you. So we hope you enjoy this one. A competition has been won when an athlete who has the shortest time from the start horn to the moment when that athlete finishes the race. So we have to determine when it actually has been determined that the athlete has finished the race.
So how do we determine that? Basically, it's the moment any part of the torso, okay, reaches the leading edge of the finish line.
Okay, so we have to determine what the torso is. So we've got some questions for us with the answers, so it'll be really easy for you to figure it out.
Okay, so what about the head?
The head is not included in the torso.
And our neck?
No.
I think shoulder might be.
Shoulder is included in the torso. And the arm?
No.
No. Even though so many athletes reach out across the finish line, it's not making their time.
I think that's usually for some water.
Maybe. And their chest?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's part of the main torso.
Yeah, so the bigger your chest, the better, the faster time you're going to have. So that's always something to consider. And then the leg.
And again, despite them sticking the legs out, we don't allow the leg as a torso.
No. So torso is basically from the neck to
basically your waist.
Yeah, your belly button kind of area. Okay.
So again, all the official results, once our athlete is finished, are in accordance with ORIS.
But what is ORIS?
I knew you were going to ask me that one. And it's a good job I looked it up earlier on. So it stands for the Olympic Results Information Services. Okay. And the time splits that we need to include, are for the swim or the first segment, if we're looking at things like duathlon, transition 1, bike, or the second segment. Again, this all changes because we have different disciplines. We have winter triathlon, as we mentioned earlier on, cross duathlon, and all these other events. We then need transition 2 and the run or third segment, and we want our overall finish time.
So you made a really good point, Duncan, and something that I forgot to mention on an earlier slide, that this definition of finish is for triathlon.
Yeah.
And so there's different definitions of finish for like an aqua bike or
a triathlon.
Yes, and winter triathlon, because they're not ending necessarily with a run, so it's not going to be their torso. So this was specific for triathlon, and in later webinars you're going to learn about the finishes of other events.
Once we have all our finished athletes, again we also need to include in a number of other categories. So listed under here we need any DNFs, which stands for did not finish. We then also need to put in any lapped athletes, and we at the back of their name, LAP for lapped. Again, non-classified participants in the sake of para-triathlon would have as NC, or if they weren't eligible to actually enter the event, but were still allowed to race, they would be down as classed as an NE. Anybody who's sadly disqualified is given the term of DSQ, and the athletes or teams who didn't actually start for whatever bad day, we have as a DNS.
So all of these definitions, plus all those timing segments that you mentioned on the previous slide, there's still other things that we have to include on the results. What are some of those things?
At the end of the results, we also have a bottom header on there. So included on that, we have the members of the competition jury. We need who the technical delegate is, who was our head referee on the day, what the distances were for the event. We mentioned earlier on that it might not be a triathlon, it might be different distances as well, so we need to record those distances. What the water temperature was in, say, for triathlon, or an aqua bike, or a aquathlon, what the air temperatures were. We also need to know whether it's wetsuit or non-wetsuit. And really importantly, we need to know what penalties were and which athletes were given those penalties. So when we actually look at the results, we know why an athlete is in a particular position.
So it's really important to record that information and put that in the results, because years from now, somebody's going to say, was it a wetsuit swim? Why did this athlete have to serve a penalty and things like that? So it's a record of what happened in the race that you might not necessarily get in a news release. So unintentional ties.
So what is an unintentional tie?
An unintentional tie is when two athletes are going as hard as they can to the finish line, and they come across at what seems to be the exact same time.
So they're not holding hands together? Or,
no, that would be
premeditated?
Yeah, that would be an intentional tie, and that would be a disqualification.
Okay.
But the unintentional tie, the timing company and the referee is going to do whatever they can to determine who might be a little bit ahead on the finish line. So they might actually have the same time, but you can tell from the photo finish camera who actually crossed the line first.
Thanks for the clarification.
But if you can't, if you've done all those things and you still can't, then we could actually recognize an unintentional tie, but we try not to. So the results have been posted, and maybe we see that a mistake has been made, or maybe there was an anti-doping rule violation that came after the fact. So there's only certain people and certain bodies who are able to change the results. The head referee, up to 48 hours after the completion of the event, is able to change the results.
But let me get this right, they're not allowed to change the time?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. You can't add or reduce times. The competition jury, the technical delegate, as a result of a protest coming from timing results, they might have more time to look after other than the 48 hours. We have an ITU appeal panel that might look at things after the medal ceremonies and up until 5 days.
And only they could change the results?
Yeah, there's the technical committee has the results review process, so there are a few different people who can, or bodies who can, but it depends on why they need to change the result and the time frame that they need to change the results. So it depends on the reason for having to change it. So you need to be clear, because you can't just arbitrarily change the results because you've seen that something has been done incorrectly. It needs to be done by the right people and because of the right reasons and the right time period, or within that time frame. So thank you very much for joining us for this particular webinar. We've enjoyed spending our time with you during this webinar, and we hope that you learned something.